Good evening and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. Hope everyone is doing well on this Thursday evening. We're back with another massive show to bring you guys this evening. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's get straight on into it. So on the show this evening, we're going to be talking about two January signings that apparently Manchester United are going to make. This is being reported by David Ornstein, who is, of course, a very reliable journalist who writes for The Athletic. So we'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking a little bit about Mason Greenwood on what the future lies for him. Of course, we'll be talking a bit about the Super League. Obviously, this morning, it looked like the Super League was all go. But since then, pretty much every serious club in world football has said they're not going to be a part of it. So we will talk about that, of course, as well. As always, I invite you to have your say on all things Manchester United in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. I always read through all the comments, so let me know how you're feeling. How's the mood? What players do we need in January? Who do you think should be sold? Let me know what you're thinking, and I will always look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. Let's start the show off by talking a little bit about the Super League then, because I think obviously that is the big talking point of the day. Now, for anybody who's been living under a rock, a European governing body apparently have said that the way that UEFA handled themselves around the Super League was unlawful, i.e. saying that if certain teams joined the league, they would not be allowed to participate in UEFA run leagues. Okay, fine. Everyone then this morning was saying, oh, the Super League's coming back, it's the end of football. It was that whole same thing again. Pretty much every single club, apart from obviously Real Madrid, who I think Real Madrid, Juventus, and potentially Barcelona are the only three clubs who are still in, potentially wanting to do this Super League thing. Manchester United have put out a statement themselves, only saying they've got no interest in being part of the Super League. I'll read out the statement for you now. So Manchester United have said, Manchester United has issued the following statement in reaction to today's judgment by the European Court of Justice on the European Super League. Manchester United say, our position has not changed. We remain fully committed to participation in UEFA competitions and to positive cooperation with UEFA, the Premier League and fellow English clubs through the ECA on the continued development of the European game. So, I don't know. I don't think the Super League will happen, to be honest. I think that the way that the Champions League's adapting to more teams next year, it's ultimately the same thing. It's the Super League. So we don't really... from a Manchester United's perspective, they're kind of already getting the Super League in the fact that, the fifth choice, the fifth team in the Premier League will get a place in the Champions League. There's more teams in it, there's more games, it's more money for UEFA, it's more TV revenue, it'll be more money for the clubs that participate because of the more games they play, etc., etc. So, I think it's good that they've come out and said this. I do. I think it's good that they've immediately dismissed the claims. But yeah, it is what it is. Malp says, "Don't be fooled by the club statement, Kieran. It's not true." I don't know, mate. We'll have to wait and see. But I would be shocked. And then obviously for anybody who's in the UK or lives in the UK, apparently the UK government are going to bring in some sort of governing body for the Premier League who will block any club from joining the Super League. So I think. Yeah, it's not going to happen personally, but we'll have to wait and see. Sorry about the previous stream. The microphone just wasn't working, so obviously I had to restart the computer and do all the rest of it. But I am here, so it all is good. So that's the bit about the Super League. Obviously, let me know in the comment section your thoughts on the Super League. For me, it was a definite no. I had no interest in it. I didn't want it to happen. I'm happy with what we've got at the moment. I think it would have completely destroyed the Premier League. It would have meant that Manchester United could have been playing a game in Australia or in India or in America midweek, which I've got no issue with. I think, obviously we have fans in those countries, but it's not realistic to be sending your team halfway around the world to play a game against Liverpool in India on a Wednesday night when you've then got to play in the Premier League on Saturday. Like what would have actually happened was clubs would have had to have two teams. You'd have one team who played the Premier League games and you'd have one team who played the Super League games. And it would have just been weird. It's a massive no for me. Obviously, there's many other reasons why I'm against it, but that's just one of the kind of glaringly obvious ones. All the other teams in the Premier League would have pretty much... They would have suffered, wouldn't they? The Brightons, the West Hams, the Even clubs like Aston Villa, like would Aston Villa have even been in it? They're the third best team in the Premier League at the moment. But from my understanding of the Super League, it was based on merit. So it was based on like, it wasn't based on merit. It was based on like how many trophies you've won in the past, you know? So yeah, it was a bit stupid and based on how many fans you've got, how much money you're going to bring into it and all the rest of it. It wasn't a very fair or sensible thing. So that's been dismissed now. It looks like that's going to be gone. So let's move on to the next topic. And that is going to be about the January window. Now, I know people are apprehensive. People are thinking we're not going to sign anybody. I think we'll make signings. And David Ornstein, obviously very reliable journalist for The Athletic, has come out this afternoon and said the same thing. So this was about an hour ago. And David Ornstein has been talking on what Manchester United fans should expect in the January window. David has said the following. He says there is an appetite to do business. Another striker and a right-sided centre-back are top of the shopping list, but indications suggest it needs to be low-cost options. If, for example, Anthony Martial can be sold, it would free up financial and squad space for Eric Ten Hag's front line to be strengthened. It is a similar case should Rafael Varane depart. The most pressing issue requiring a resolution is that of Jadon Sancho. If the winger is not going to be reintegrated, United desperately need to raise money for him. There are reports that they have discussed terminating his contract, which would be extremely costly and surely a last resort. So it looks like we're going to go for two players. As I said, a right-sided centre-back and a striker. Who do you think those options will be? I mean, for me, it's pretty obvious. Obviously, Guirassy, available for £15 million. It would be absolutely stupid if we didn't go and get that done. Like, £15 million, that's the kind of budget that we've got at the moment for players. You know, we're talking £15 million signings. And to get somebody at the age of 27 who has got 17 goals and 1 assist in 14 games in the Bundesliga, second highest goal scorer, I believe, just behind Harry Kane, who's obviously absolutely destroying the Bundesliga. £15 million, that can be yours. 27 years of age. I mean, even if he comes in on, a 4-year contract, right? He would only be here till he's 31. And if he does well, he could be here till he's 33, 34. I mean, for me, 4 years, £15 million. I mean, what's that per year? Like, you'll probably be paying about $3 million a year to Stuttgart, because very rarely you pay 100% of the fee up front. So for me, it's an absolute no-brainer. The guy's only on €40,000 a week at Stuttgart. So even if you gave him, say, £60,000-70,000 a week, which is like nearly double what he's on now, I think he would be happy with that. And even if he only got 10 goals, you know, in the Premier League in a season, I think when you consider Højlund's got 0, Martial I don't think scored in the Premier League this season. I think, you know, we need to start finding some goals in that attacking line. Now, I know you can argue and say, well, what's the point in bringing in a striker if nobody passes in the ball? I agree with that, I do. But I think bringing in someone slightly older to rotate with Højlund will give us a bit more options. I think, obviously, we're out of the Champions League now. We're out of the Europa League. But we should be going all out in the FA Cup. We should be trying to win that. And we should be obviously trying to battle for at least 5th, if not 6th place in the Premier League, which I know is not what everybody expected. But yeah. Daniel says, I watched Guirassy's highlights today and was quite impressed. Brilliant finishing and composure in front of goal. Yeah, I've seen quite a few clips of him and he looks decent. He does. Mumra says, EPL is the Super League. Man United don't need any more Super Leagues. Yep, I agree. Irvin says, it's funny that you can't hear players protesting against the Super League. More injuries, more burnout for players' thoughts. Yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? It is what it is. Doesn't surprise me. Irvin says, it's Wout Weghorst time. Yeah, maybe not for me. Mumra says, better to go for a striker on loan and buy someone like Openda in the summer. The thing is, mate, like, you make a good point. I'm just not convinced that we're going to have this, you know, £100 million to spend on a striker in the January window. I just don't think it will happen. Sorry, in the summer window. I think next summer, if we're not in the Champions League, it's going to be really, really difficult. Now, obviously, there's the potential that Jim Ratcliffe might ingest some money into the club to try and, you know, help us out next summer. That is a possibility. But yeah, I would be pretty worried if we're not in the Champions League. I don't think we'll get, you know, an Osimhen or an Openda, as you've suggested. We'll be looking at these cheaper options. And from what I'm hearing, Manchester United's model going forward is very much going to be looking at cheaper players. It's going to be looking at more like, you know, younger, rising players, opposed to going for the kind of £100 million stars. And I think that probably is the right decision in the long run, because I don't think we're in the position at the moment to be spending £100 million and 300, 400 grand a week on wages on players anymore, because we're simply not. We just aren't. And I think that we've tried it so many times over the past kind of 5 or 6 years. And name me one player who we've spent mega money on, given them ridiculous wages, and it's worked out. I don't think there's any, really. I mean, Maguire didn't work out. Pogba, I don't think really worked out. Sancho obviously hasn't worked out. Anthony hasn't worked out. Højlund, I think it's too early to tell. But you go through the list of those big players who've, got big contracts and big transfer fees, and none of them have worked. So we do need to change our model. We do need to try something different. And I think that, going for these cheaper players, these newer, maybe lesser known players, or going for bargains like this Guirassy, that's just where we are now. And I know people are frustrated. Everybody wants us to go and get Osimhen. People want us to go and get, those types of names. But we're not that club anymore. It's that's just the reality. Maybe in 3 or 4 years, if we're starting to, win trophies again, and, we're winning Premier Leagues or we're winning Champions Leagues, then great. You go and buy those big players. But yeah, it's what it is, isn't it? But let me know what you guys think. How would you feel about a striker and a centre-back in January? Obviously, we spoke on the show this morning that apparently Real Madrid are looking at bringing Rafael Varane back to Madrid. Obviously, David Alaba has just got a season-long injury. I don't know. I don't know what to think. I'm quite excited about the transfer window, but then at the same time, it could just be Guirassy and maybe a centre-back on loan. We'll have to wait and see. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let's see what everyone's saying. Yorkshire says we should bring back Mason next season, playing alongside Garnacho and Højlund, add Rashford, Ahmad and Sancho. Replacement will make us very fluent. Yeah, we're going to talk about Mason Greenwood now. So the headline coming out this afternoon is this: Manchester United have no plans to bring Mason Greenwood back to Old Trafford, despite interest from Barcelona and Real Madrid. It says United do not see a scenario where Greenwood returns, and the most likely outcome is that he sees out his loan at Getafe before being sold to a bigger club next summer. So there you go. I would be shocked if Greenwood comes back. I would. We spoke about this a little bit on the show this morning, and I said, he's out in Spain. He's pretty much going under the radar. He's playing for Getafe, who are a lower table side. He's putting in 8 out of 10 performances week in, week out. But he's not getting all of the rest of it. He's not getting the press coming after him. He's not getting the fans coming after him. And not being funny, but like, he's in another country. Imagine if you're in England. Obviously, he doesn't speak Spanish. So even if people were shouting stuff at him, like, he probably doesn't actually know what they're saying. I know that sounds a little bit simple, but, imagine being at Mason Greenwood going and playing at Anfield, or going and playing at the Etihad, or maybe not the Etihad, there's no atmosphere there, but I don't know, say at Newcastle or at Crystal Palace, or like, one of these grounds where the atmosphere is really, really incredible, and you've got all of these people shouting stuff at him, shouting abuse at him, I just don't see why he would want that personally. So I think that as much as people are like, bring him back, like, you've got to look at it from both sides. Maybe he doesn't want to come back. Maybe he's enjoying his time over there. Maybe the prospect of moving to Real Madrid or Barcelona excites him more. I mean, if I was being completely honest, I know he's from Manchester and all the rest of it, but if I was Mason Greenwood, I would happily go and I would happily go and move to Real Madrid. If considering the situation, if that was an option, a genuine option, I would definitely be like, right, get my agent to get me a move to Real Madrid or to Barcelona. It's probably in everyone's interest. We'd get a transfer fee. He would probably be much more happy. Lumen says, Kieran, the likes of Beckham faced much more serious wrath from the fans during the 90s. Well, we don't know that yet, though, mate, do we? Because he hasn't played any football in England since all of this stuff has happened. So it's easy to say in the past Beckham received worse abuse. But you can't say that yet. He hasn't even played it. He hasn't stepped foot in England on a football pitch. So we don't know what the kind of reaction would be. But from what my understanding of it is, it wouldn't be received well. Like, let's be very, very clear. Even if Manchester United fans welcomed him back, which I don't think a lot of people who go to the matches would, the rival fans are never going to welcome him back. Ever. So that's the situation, isn't it? But let me know what you guys think on this one in the comment section. Do you think Mason Greenwood should come back to Manchester United? Try and give me like a balanced opinion. Like, if you want him to come back, then that's fine. Of course, I've got no issue with that. That's up to you. But do you think he'll actually come back? That's what I kind of want to know. Like, do you think he'll actually come back? And what do you think's going through his head? Talking of right wingers, let's stick to that quickly. Obviously, we desperately need another right winger. Sancho's going to go. Anthony hasn't really worked out yet. Manchester United are apparently now interested in signing Real Sociedad winger Takasufa Kubo. This guy looks incredible. Right winger, obviously playing his football over in La Liga. Somebody I really, really like. Only 22 years of age. He's available for only £40 million, which sounds like a lot, but for somebody that has got 6 goals, 3 assists, and 3 assists for Real Sociedad in 16 matches, I think that's a really, really good return. Obviously, he's a Japanese international as well, only 22 years of age. I think these are the kinds of players that, Jim Ratcliffe, Paul Mitchell, Dan Ashworth, if that's the team that we have, will be looking at. Obviously, they are still known players, but for 40 million, there's much less of a risk than when you spend 100 million on Anthony. And he is somebody that I would like to see at Manchester United. So let me know what you guys think about this guy. I've probably said his name wrong, but I'll try one more time. Takefusa Kubo. 22 years of age, plays for Real Sociedad on the right wing. And the story is today that Manchester United are interested in signing Real Sociedad winger Kubo. United have scouted him all season, and Kubo is available for £43 million. That was a story that came out a couple of hours ago. So we'll have to see what happens with that one. But it's very clear to see that we will be looking at a right winger in the summer. Alongside another centre-back is my understanding. Because obviously I imagine that Johnny Evans will be gone. Lindelof, I imagine, will probably go. Varane will probably go at least in the summer. We could see 2 or 3, if not more, centre-backs leave in the summer. So we will need to strengthen that position. I'm just going to have a sip of water quickly. Richie says, Greenwood's stats in Spain are nothing special. It's easier than the Premier League. Ineos will decide Greenwood's future, but me personally, I don't want him back. He was trouble, remember. He was trouble, remember, when England were playing in the internationals in Iceland. Yeah, I hear you, mate. Loomis says, Kieran, would you play the same team against West Ham, which conquered Anfield? I would start Bruno over McTominay. McTominay was completely pointless in that game. I would have everybody else the same, but I would play Bruno over McTominay. But I will do a match preview tomorrow or Saturday. Graham says, is Guirassy any better than Solanke from Bournemouth? I mean, I don't know if that's an insult or not, because Solanke's a good player. Solanke's decent. Is he better? I don't know. They're probably on level, I would say. How much would Solanke cost you? More than 15 million euros, that's for sure. I mean, let me just tell you this, right? Solanke has got 8 goals and 1 assist in the Premier League so far for Bournemouth. Rasmus Højlund, our 60-70 million pound striker, has got 0. So I'll be honest with you. If Guirassy was as good as Solanke, I'd be chuffed with that. If we brought in a striker who's scoring a goal every other game in the Premier League, which Solanke is, I would be buzzing. I mean, what's that? He's on track to get nearly 20 goals this season, Solanke. So yeah, I think it would be a good bit of business if we went and got Guirassy. And if he was to be able to get the same return as Solanke, I would be more than happy with that. I mean, Liverpool sold Solanke for 21 million euros. So this Guirassy guy is actually cheaper than Solanke. And that was 4 years ago when he was only like in his early 20s. So he'd be worth way more than that now. Loomis says, Kieran, should we criticise Højlund or not at all? I think it's difficult to criticise Højlund, to be honest. I do. Obviously, the chance against Liverpool, I think he should have scored. I'll criticise him for that. But generally, he doesn't get any opportunities. Nobody passes him the ball. The rest of the team are greedy. They'd rather shoot than pass. They'd rather get the glory themselves than try and find him. So yeah, I think it's difficult to criticise him. I think if he was in another side, if he was at Man City, Arsenal, he'd be probably on 10, 15 goals already in the Premier League. I think he works hard. I think he's got all the traits to become a good player. Whether or not that'll be at Manchester United or not, I don't know. We've seen Falcao failed here, Igalo failed, Weghorst failed, Ronaldo got pushed out of the club, Memphis Depay failed. You look at all these strikers that have been at Man United over the last 5 or 6 years, and I'd say that most of them have failed. So it's hardly a surprise, really. And welcome Phil, who's just joined the members club. Thank you very much for the support, my friend. Hope you're doing well. If you do want to join the members club, I will drop a link for it in the chat now. I think it's only 99p. I set it as 99p and I never changed it, so I'm not sure why I did that. I probably should have changed it back to, I think it was more than that originally. But thank you so much for joining anyway, mate. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I've just dropped a link in the chat. I think it's only 99p, so if you are in a position then please do. Obviously, really helps the channel, and obviously any support is massively appreciated. So yeah, welcome, Phil. Romano86 says we can't. He says, how do you want to criticize Højlund if his wingers don't create chances for him? Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I'll say this, right? Say in the next 10 games, Højlund's getting 2 or 3 blatant goal scoring opportunities and he misses, I'll start criticising him 100%. But I genuinely can only think of one chance in the last 10 games where I'm like, he should have scored that. And that was against Liverpool. And even then, you're coming up against probably the best goalkeeper in the world at Anfield after literally parking the bus. And you've got one opportunity after effectively having no input in the game at all. Like, so even then, I expected him to score. But when you actually think about it, most strikers probably get 2 or 3 opportunities like that a game. And might score 1. So it's difficult. Romano says, if you want to criticise a player, it should be Rashford. Yeah, I think that's fair. But Rashford's not in the team anymore, so I'm not going to sit here and slag off Rashford, He's been dropped from the team. That was the right decision. I support Erik ten Hag's decision to drop him, and it is what it is. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be back live tomorrow. Probably be about 8:45 a.m. UK time. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video before you go. Please do subscribe if you're new. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll speak to you all tomorrow morning.